Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of Democracy Under Threat. I'm your host, Eddie Layne, and of course, I'm joined this evening by Ms. Priya Manickchand. She is a former minister under the People's Progressive Party Civic Government and also a candidate for the PPPC in the March 2nd general and regional elections. We're continuing to monitor what is happening in Guyana. There has been quite a number of developments over the past few hours. So Priya, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Eddie, and I'm really enjoying the ability to do this in the lockdown. So to the creator of Zoom, we are deeply grateful. Guyanese in particular are grateful at this time because of what it allows us to do at a time when a political party, a relic from the past, is still trying to steal the will of the people in a country in 2020. So it really means a little bit more to us here that that we're able to use this forum, Zoom, even as we take precautions against the deadly pandemic that the world is presently faced with, the COVID-19.
All right, I think Guyanese are now fully aware of what transpired post March 2nd of 2020. We're at the point now where the battle is on to ensure, and this is a battle that is being fought by the People's Progressive Party Civic and a number of the new political parties that contested the elections. The battle really is to protect our democracy and to ensure that there are credible and transparent results of the March 2nd general and regional elections. The Commission has been meeting continuously every week, several times per week, to more or less finalize the recount. A recount that was requested by Mr. Granger himself to have CARICOM to come and monitor or to scrutinize, basically, and the same recount that one of his local government candidates would have attempted to thwart, and that candidate was represented by one of his current candidates, Attorney at Law Royce Dale Ford. We're at a point now, though, where we are very close, I would want to believe, to having a recount. The CARICOM team is expected in Guyana, I think, tomorrow, Thursday. But there still seems to be a number of attempts by some of the commissioners, the commissioners on the APNU AFC side, to more or less thwart this entire attempt to have credible results.
So Eddie, I think we need to be very clear and very frank with our supporters and with people who are looking to us for answers, and with ourselves. I don't believe at this time we could be unclear about whether there was a deliberate attempt to take the election, to steal the election, to rig the election in favor of the PNC, APNU, AFC. We are absolutely clear. In fact, when it was happening, when the thing was unfolding, on the night of the 4th and the night of the 5th, we knew stuff was off. We were in the building at Ashman's there, and as things were happening, you objected. Not only the PPPC, but the PPPC and other parties objected as things were unfolding. When the boy called 2 ballot boxes and then said he was tired and went in, and we objected. When they attempted to use the spreadsheets, we objected. Everybody, observers, political parties, the PPPC led those objections. At that time, we weren't clear that I don't think anybody could have imagined that this level of rig would be attempted in 2020. In the presence of live cameras, rolling cameras, that is video cameras that we are accustomed to, as well as live Facebook feeds. So at that time, we didn't know what was happening. We knew something was off, and you were trying to keep it on track by following the laws and asking that the laws be complied with. Now, 8 weeks later, because yesterday, Eddie, 2 days ago on Monday, we just crossed 8 weeks since we had an election. 8 long weeks. Since the March 2nd election where we're still without a result. That now we're in a different place than we were on the 4th and the 5th of March. Now we are sure. We have seen with our own eyes, we have the evidence that specific individuals attempted to rig the elections by giving votes to the PNC, APNU, AFC that they did not get, and particularly that do not reflect the way the people of Guyana voted. So we're not unclear anymore. Where did these people come from who tried to rig this election? Valda Lawrence's signature is on one of the fraudulent documents. She came from the PNC. Mr. Mingo, not Mortimer, what's his name? Claremont Mingo. I don't believe he woke up one day and decided he was going to rig the election by himself. So he's clearly taking instructions from someone. The only someone benefiting from this rig is the PNC, APNU, AFC. So we are sure that they are involved. We are sure that Mr. Mingo is involved. We are sure because, you know, throughout that period, the CEO, Lowenfield, and DCEO, Roxanne Myers, had to do certain things or fail to do certain things, omit to do things to allow Mr. Mingo to carry out his disgraceful and blatant attempt to rig. So, and they're still in there. People in that building, flash drive guy, and the girls who said they were tired and they could barely walk out of the room, all of them were involved in this. Had to be either through an active participation or through omitting to say, hey, listen, we can't do this. That's not our job. That's not what we were trained to do. Let's do what we were trained to do. In all of this, we have a Guyana Elections Commission, not the Secretariat, a commission. It's headed by a chairperson, and it has 3 commissioners from the AP and UAFC and 3 from the PPP Civic. The 3 from the AP and UAFC have been very clear. It is so sad to watch 3 big men who you could have had respect for, you know, on an ordinary day, and one whose party has specifically come out publicly as a political party. The WPA has come out and said that their results are not credible and we must go back to a recount and we must do it according to law. And then recently, very prominent members of that very small party, so it must be all the members if we really speaking factually here, just wrote a letter to the newspapers and with some other civil society members, and they were very clear. This foolishness that they're going on with there, that we got to count all the regions. Why are you counting all the regions? It's Region 4 that had a problem. Plus, they were saying very clearly, we need to see the declaration for Region 4 on what it was based. You need to set that aside. These are members of the WPA, and one of their representatives, Desmond Trotman, is shamelessly sitting on that commission trying to steal votes. Still, surely they have some control over him. But we have 3 commissioners who represent the AP and UAFC who have throughout this process not condemned or criticized the blatant and very, very visible attempt to thief the election that everybody else saw. They apparently are the only ones who didn't see it. And then we have the PPP commissioners who have been all the time calling for law and order and law to be followed. That's all we're asking. Follow the law to its letter, and let's do what we did for all the other 9 regions. And then we have a chairperson. And for me, Eddie, it really comes down to her. And that's why I went through that whole process. You have people who are trying to rig the elections, not something we're guessing about anymore, it's something we're absolutely certain about. And they are going to be participating in this process again. We have the APNU commissioners. We're not unsure about what they want. They want the APNU in office, come hell or high water, regardless of how people voted. And we have the PPP commissioners. Now, she has a casting vote. I'm talking about Claudette Singh, Justice Claudette Singh, Justice retired Claudette Singh. She has a casting vote. That means if there's a tie, she gets to break that tie by casting a vote. And it is really up to her. It is as frank as that. It is really up to her. Are we going to have free and fair elections with a credible declaration, transparent declaration of results that could withstand scrutiny and that will withstand scrutiny? Or is she going to side on the, or lean on the side of the oppressors and act accordingly? Now, thus far, with the greatest of respect to Madam Justice, she has appeared hapless and helpless and almost dumb blondie. You know, we say things like that. Uh, we know that to be common parlance, dumb blonde. You just totally clueless about what's going on. In fact, that's the best thing we can say about her right now. That what she did was, I still want to lean on the side that it was not deliberate and it was not siding with people who had determined already that they were going to rig the election. But so far, she has come over extremely helpless and almost stupid. And it is unacceptable. She's done such harm to the movement that has been struggling for many years, and finally started to see some movement. She's really been harmful to the movement, um, the worldwide movement that has been happening, caught on here also in Guyana, to appoint women to a high position. She went in there and she seemed, even in the movements around the building or around the court, she seemed like she reveled in the fact that she had bodyguards looking after her. Why do you need bodyguards? You're a powerful woman. You are strong. You are sensible. You are capable. Stop behaving as though you're so helpless. And could you fetch this and could you fetch that? That's not for this era. And it's not going to be tolerated in this era. And that's why I say, for me, it is up to Claudette Singh and what she will do that will determine whether we are sanctioned as a country and whether ministers and so on are sanctioned or not. Up to now, she has given us no reason to celebrate the brilliance she claims she has, no reason to celebrate the name that she dubbed herself, Iron Lady, no reason to celebrate this claim to high integrity. So far, we haven't gotten any reason to celebrate those things. And I'd like to put it down to her being hapless. And I'm being very clear, that's the best thing we could say about her right now. What she needs to do is to shed that whole aura of being extremely helpless and dotish and stupid. Sit down, determine what needs to be done. And I know you're probably wondering why I'm saying she should do this now. She should have been done a long time ago, I agree, but this is where we are now. Sit down and work out how this count will go in your head, how this recount will go, and address the issues that will come up long before they come up. Or else we're going to have a recount that will be delayed. I anticipate all the tricks coming out of the AP and UAFC, all of the tricks being pulled out of their hats for this recount. There are going to be maximum attempts to delay. It's going to be accommodated by members of the Secretariat who are in their pocket or otherwise being held hostage by them. It's going to, they will do everything they can to frustrate the process and make a declaration that does not reflect the will of the people of this country. And so I am saying there is a woman in Guyana who could stop all of that, and all eyes are on her. And I think it is time for us to stop being diplomatic and say to her that we demand that she does what she says she's capable of doing, what we are paying her, because she's being paid handsomely, what we are paying her to do, and what she swore on her holy book that she will do as chairperson of GCOM. And I think we're not at a place anymore where we could split hairs. This is what is required of her, and she has to do it.
Priya, but I think a lot of people have recognized, that there's so many occasions from March 2nd to now where these attempts were made, and you mentioned those attempts by Mr. Mingo and the commissioners representing the APNU, AFC, and elements in the Secretariat and so forth. But the PPP has managed to, with the support also of the small parties, the diplomatic community present there, the international observers, who are all for democracy and for free and fair elections, have managed to thwart every single attempt from March 3rd, I think it was, to rig the elections, to declare unverified results. And I think they, this seems to be a movement, a people's movement that is growing. When you look at the guys who are protecting the ballot boxes, the guardians of democracy, when you look at the constant efforts to ensure that the results are credible, the PPP and all the new parties and all those who are in favor of democracy must be commended for those efforts. And I'm very, very, very confident personally that any attempts during this recount that are made to somehow declare results that don't reflect the will of the people, those efforts would also be thwarted.
You were talking about people we know about, the small parties, the PPP. I picked up my phone to read you this, and this came into me at 2:47 p.m. today. Good afternoon, Ms. Priya. We cannot allow this election to be stolen because our future generations will never forgive us. This is someone from Region 9. Region 9, WhatsApping me, writing me. Probably going somewhere to get reception. Someone else sent in yesterday suggestion that we about how she believes we can get the SOPs declared. So this is not, I think they're stunned. They carried on as though they were just going to swear themselves in. In fact, I am aware that at least 3 times, I think 4 times, I'm remembering 3 for sure. 3 times that there were real attempts to swear Mr. Granger in. They had soldiers dressed in their white clothes, the band people, who the ceremonial people, and there were attempts to clear some public buildings and secure them and so on, so that he could go and get sworn in, because he really believed, and the people around him, they really believed that they were just going to do whatever they wanted, not serve the people of this country, not do what they promised to do in their manifestos, and still just take the election in 2020, take an election and move themselves into office and move on like that in 2025 and 2030. And they are stunned that 8 weeks later, they are illegitimate, they are unlawful, they're not recognized. We don't see them. In fact, they're hiding. When last you saw a minister either on TV or on the internet or making a comment somewhere? We don't see them. What we have seen are ministers or former ministers who actually stepped out against the president and the government, saying this is unacceptable and I'm not going to be a part of this. We don't see right now, education is in shambles. We have kids at home. We have children who the Child Care and Protection Agency reported that they're getting more calls for sexual and physical abuse of children, because we've locked them up in homes with people who are abusers. Parents can't work, so they can't feed those kids. Parents can't teach them because they just don't have the ability to do that. Parents can't have them accessing internets and e-learning because they can't pay for the internet and the bandwidth and so on. We have a country that is in deep crisis. We don't see the ministers. The ministers have gone into isolation where they're at home. They're collecting their very big, fat, undeserved salaries, and they're doing absolutely nothing for people. They themselves are shocked. I think they believe that they were just going to be just passing, regardless of what people of this country wanted. It's a different time. That
and it's for that reason, Priya, I said that it has now become a people's movement,
right,
where it is beyond the political parties. It is,
right.
Guys, when you look at the guardians of democracy, many of them are persons who want to see Guyana's democratic gains since 1992 are protected. You're seeing people in communities across the country coming out and are speaking out, even supporters, people who
well, that's it. You expect
them.
Right. You expect the PPP supporters to say what, we don't like this or whatever. What is really very, very pleasing to my heart and really very encouraging is PNC supporters, people who are saying to you that we voted coalition because we believe that a coalition government has more scope for inclusivity and all those things that they told people they would offer. And people who are saying in letters to the editor and in Facebook posts and so on, I voted coalition, not in this election alone. I put you in office in 2015, and I put you in office in 20. I put you in the majority in the parliament in 2011, and I've given you my vote in 2020, but never again, never again. And you cannot use my vote to do this that you're doing here. So they have a big shock coming for them if they believe that they're going to, all of them, by they I mean not only the political parties and their heads, but also actors and movers and shakers in this business of rigging, including the Claudette Sings and so on. I don't know if they think they're going to rig an election and walk into a supermarket and comfortably shop. I think they're going to have another thing coming.
I want to move you quickly because I think are
And let me just
almost
be
out of
very
time.
clear. Let me be very clear. That was not a threat from me. We will take that to court, and we will embarrass and publicly name people and so on. But I'm saying to you that people are not going to allow thieves, because that's really what they are, to live comfortably amongst a civilization as though they're civilized people. And that's not to say they're going to be physically harmed. I'm just going to say they're going to be named, they're going to be shamed. People are going to call them out. People are going to demand from them answers when they're least expected. And that's what I see happening, and it's very encouraging, Eddie, because I was thinking only today that Dr. Jagan and the PPP went to election after election after election and the elections were rigged, and they knew they were going to be rigged. And then Barnum and the PNC and Hoyt too, because I see people talking about Hoyt was such a great man. He had the best or the worst rig, depending on which one you want to call it, in 1985. They said it was the most rigged election. People who they had all the PR facilities, radio and newspapers, and so that they controlled. And so it wasn't that easy to get information out. Imagine if we didn't have Facebook, and we didn't have Zoom, and we didn't have the ability to broadcast in a mass way, publish what was happening. They would come out, these guys are coming out blatantly and saying this didn't happen, that didn't happen, and changing the story, making it completely the opposite of what we saw with our very own eyes happen. And so it's interesting to see how they will reconcile their old rigging ways with the new world, the new, very visible, very connected world. As things were happening here, people in South Africa and Australia and England and Canada and the US were texting me and WhatsApping me and telling me what they were seeing and what they were hearing outside that I wasn't even hearing because we were in the building. So it's a very different world. The Granger world and the Sandra Granger world, when they were in the 70s and 80s and they could do things and hide it and dress up and come out with a suit and a nice dress and a hat and make that into what their image is. That's very different world we're living in now. Look, today, Christiane Amanpour from CNN, she's very known with interviews and so on around the world. She interviewed Barbados's Prime Minister Mia Mottley about her country and COVID and the effects and so on. Nobody's going to come near us. We have an old man squatting in office, illegitimate, unrecognized. People are avoiding him like the plague. And that necessarily means people avoid Guyana. That's what's happening, because he is the president. And you can't go to another president while he's squatting in office. And so the whole country gets punished for his greed.
Quickly, because I think we have just maybe about 3 or 4 minutes more. I want to ask you, Priya, in the context of sanctions, and I know anytime we head in any direction, like we were going to have unverified results that are not transparent declared, Guyana could be sanctioned. I think a lot of people still don't understand. I know it's going to start with personal sanctions first, and it may very well, should we not get proper results, may very well end up in a situation of sanctions on our country. Quickly, in maybe a minute or two, if you can
So I don't want
again.
to speculate, and I want to be very clear. For me, it pains me to talk about sanctions for my country because I know what that means. You know, today someone was made a post, a private school parent made a post, private school parent made a post that during the class, because they're doing Zoom classes, I think, or Google Classroom or something, but during the classroom, the teacher said, okay, you can take a break and go get lunch. And one of the children said, and that was audible for all the parents to hear, uh, sorry, mommy went to work and she didn't cook anything. And that's where we are. That
I
is
saw
half of this
I
country.
saw it.
Right. That is half of, I mean, if you, while the president and his ministers, unlawful as they are, hide and their children are eating and learning on our backs, people are starving. It's not an exaggeration. People are going hungry. Their parents can't work, children can't eat, they can't eat 3 square meals. Things are off the shelves already. You can get some vitamins and so on in the pharmacies. You can get some items from the supermarket. It's already there. It's going to get much worse. So it brings me no pleasure to say that sanctions will come. But let me tell you what will happen. The individuals will be sanctioned. They'll simply say, Simona, you, your daughter, Nicolette, you, your daughter, Nigel, Hughes, and Kathy, you guys can't travel. You can't come to our country because, you know, you're not behaving in a civilized manner. You're stealing votes in 2020 and take visas and so on. That will probably happen. But we have also heard very clearly from ambassadors and high commissioners and so on what sanctions mean. And they have given us examples. The EU High Commissioner, I think last week sometime on a program on the Kaichura News political show, said very clearly, or one of their talk shows, it might not be the political show, said very clearly that they're unable to work with governments who are engaging in these kinds of malpractices. And he might have been saying it nicely. They're unable to work with governments who thief in people's votes, who are refusing to recognize the will of the people, who are squatting in office despite the fact that they were thrown out through an election. They're unable to work with governments and they're not able to cooperate with them. And he said very clearly, we've done it in Africa, we've done it in Asia, we've done it in different countries, and we will be forced to make sure we don't cooperate with countries who benefit from rigged elections. Now, like I said, John Doe from Buxton, Mary Jane from Blackbush Polder, Sunil Singh from Kitty, they don't go and negotiate on behalf of the people of Guyana. It's a government that does that, a government who is not recognized anywhere. So they might not say, Guyana, you're sanctioned, but when they say, which the ambassador said very clearly the other day, we can't work with a government who stole an election. We can't work with a government who is keeping themselves in office despite how people voted. We can't work with a government who has benefited from results at an election that are not credible or transparent. So if you can't work with the government, it means any aid, any benefits, any kind of trade negotiations, any kind of, those things will stop. The cooperation between countries or even amongst countries in a multilateral sense will stop, and Guyana will suffer for that. Now, we say that so abstractly, Guyana will suffer. People will go hungry. Farmers are going to want for fertilizers and chemicals and so on that they're not going to get. People are going to have trouble accessing Western unions and other remittances that they get. So it's a very frightening road. And it comes back to, you know, here are people insisting that they stay in office, although they're not governing. So right now they're in office and they're doing zilch, zero for people. I mean, they have such a fantastic opportunity at this time to serve the people of this country. And they're not even doing that because they don't care. And that's the problem, Eddie, with rigged elections. I'll come to that in a minute. But here you have people who just don't care about the people that they're sworn to serve. And that's the problem with rigged elections. When you rig an election, there's no reason to serve because you'll just rig the next one. You're not trying to win hearts and votes by serving people and serving them well and serving them equitably and coming up with new initiatives. You don't need to do that if you're just going to rig the election. And that is where people will really suffer.
Priya, I want to thank you very much for joining me. Our half an hour has gone.
Ah,
The program is now heating up, but our half an hour has gone. Um, I want to thank you very much again, like I said, for joining me, and of course, for those who are joining us on the television and on social media with this program. To be part of this program. Just a quick update before we go. The team is expected, the CARICOM team is expected here tomorrow. Um, but the issue is that GCOM has not yet decided on a date. There is this ridiculous request to have 33,000 face masks. We didn't get to deal with that for the persons who will be part of the recount process. There is this ridiculous idea of wanting to sanitize and sterilize ballot boxes and all sorts of things. A whole host of efforts to maybe delay and thwart the recount efforts. So I'm going to give you probably 30 seconds to wrap things up. I know you wanted to talk about the masks.
Yeah, the mask request is ridiculous. It is not what is happening standard anywhere in the world. In fact, leaders, presidents, prime ministers, I can name two, Jacinda Ardern and Mia Mottley. And I saw the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago have come out and specifically asked their citizens not to purchase masks that N95s and the surgical masks and so on. They're asking them to leave that for health workers and to use homemade masks. I saw Sanjay Gupta from the CNN do a whole piece, an infomercial sort of, on the use of homemade masks and why they're beneficial and why they work and so on. This government in Guyana, who can't give a single mask to a single citizen, either as a government or a political party, it's the PPPC who has been distributing masks and have done more than 50,000 persons so far, and smaller parties, new parties who have been taking up that effort. The government and the AP and the political parties in government have not done a single mask distribution. They cannot get masks to our health workers, or even soap for them to wash their hands, or soap for them to wash their the facilities that they are using. Soap, but they want 33,000 masks so that the people at GCOM could change them every hour. There's another request. The request is really that they change them every half an hour, which is 66,000 masks. And it's just bizarre. These things keep coming. And I'm saying to you, that's why I started the program by saying, I think we have to be very clear to Claudette Singh now that she needs to stop this helpless, hapless behavior and take control and start thinking using her head, which she told us she has a good one on. And she told us she's she has a lot of integrity and so on, and start pulling this process in, thinking of what will happen when the process starts and addressing those issues.
Priya, again, thank you very much for joining
Well,
us.
thank you, Eddie.
To our viewers, we want to thank you very much for being part of the program. Until next time, have a good rest of the evening. Bye for now.